Something like a month ago, I released part 1 to this 2-part series where I covered the ultimate Nintendo Lost Media Iceberg chart. In the last part, I covered layers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The facts were more tame and less obscure than things will be in this video. Go watch that if you haven't already. In today's video, I'll be covering layers 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And you're going to want to stay till the end because things get very strange, obscure, and even disturbing. I'll waste no more time. This is part 2 of the Nintendo Lost Media Iceberg Explained. LodgeNet. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, many North American hotels had televisions equipped with interactive systems called LodgeNet. Normally, this service offered pay-per-view movies and some simple arcade-style games, but in 1995, Nintendo signed a deal with LodgeNet to bring Nintendo's home room entertainment to thousands of hotel rooms. Guests could rent time on a menu of Nintendo titles directly through the TV and play them using a special controller provided in the room. Early on, the service focused on Nintendo 64 games, but it would later expand to GameCube and Game Boy Advance offerings. Because LodgeNet's system didn't use retail cartridges or discs in the TV itself, all of the games were broadcast by central servers or proprietary boards installed behind the scenes. Collectors and preservationists know that LodgeNet used custom builds for many games, but very few of these ROMs or system images have surfaced publicly. Super Mario Ambassadors of Funk. In the early 1990s, the band Ambassadors of Funk teamed up with Nintendo to make a hip-hop album based on the game series Super Mario Bros. These songs were later released on an album named Super Mario Compact Disco. While the album was only released in Japan on March 21, 1993, one song based on Super Mario Land was on CD, and as of 2009, it's on iTunes too. What's interesting is that a promotional video was made for this song. The video was up on YouTube for a while but was removed due to a copyright claim. It was filmed at the Chessington World of Adventures and featured the voice of MC Mario singing along to the song, 2 dancers, and a person in a Mario costume. This video has since been preserved and can be viewed on the website Dailymotion. Bulborb.com. Bulborb.com seems to refer to this weird promotional website that a fan must have ran sometime from 2013 to 2017, supposedly to promote the Pikmin games. It's a website that basically has everything Bulborb related on it. A Bulborb is an enemy from the Pikmin games. This website has been shut down for a while, but by using the Wayback Machine, certain pages on the website are still intact. Some tabs on this site claim that they'll redirect you to Pikmin games and such, but the pages these buttons would redirect you to don't work anymore, so currently most of this website is lost. Alex Tolio. Alex Tolio was a Greek Mario 64 speedrunner who notoriously broke his neck in 2013 and spent most of the summer in a neck brace. Because he was immobilized for so long, he focused all of his energy and time into one thing, speedrunning Super Mario 64. Because he was not able to really get up and go out, he couldn't speedrun Mario 64 on the most optimal version, the N64 version, and rather he had to make do with what he already had, so he was running the game on the Wii Virtual Console version. Tolio achieved impressive times on the Virtual Console, most notably a 4908 in a 70 star, which was 1 second faster than another user's Siglamek's N64 world record of 4909. He also had a 1 hour 49 minutes and 4 second run in a 120 star. Despite their significance, these runs have become lost media because neither Tolio nor the community moderators archived or downloaded them. Mario's Mission Earth. Mario's Mission Earth was a cancelled third installment of the SNES educational game that would have followed a similar formula to Mario's Missing and Mario's Time Machine, with the main focus being set on the solar system. Nothing is known about the project apart from a mention on the resume of Mark Knight, the composer for the SNES versions of Mario's Missing and Mario's Time Machine. Animal Crossing Movie Calendar. In 2007, a line of promotional calendars were supposedly rolled out to promote the Animal Crossing movie that came out a year prior. On Reddit, a user by the name of Mario123311 posted a picture of a presumably lost Animal Crossing poster. He stated, "This is an item I've sought after for many years now, but have never found an available auction for. I wasn't sure if anyone else had seen it, was aware of it, or if somebody knows who might have it in their possession. It has some pretty uncommon and rare artwork that I'd love to have preserved or taken pictures of in some form. Aside from that though, these are all that's left. I found these from various Japanese blog posts dating back to nearly over 2 decades ago." The calendars have still not been found. Purple Yoshi Tech Demo. The so-called Purple Yoshi Tech Demo is an alleged Game Boy Advance demonstration program set to date back to around 2000. It featured a purple-colored Yoshi character battling mechanical enemies in a 3D-looking environment. The only widely circulated evidence of its existence is a single image showing the scene, which some claimed originated from IGN at the time. However, nothing beyond this image has ever been verified. No cartridge, ROM, video footage, or development documentation have surfaced. Even the supposed original source of the screenshot cannot be traced, and the visual style doesn't perfectly line up with known official Nintendo tech demos from that era. Marionette. At E3 2001, Nintendo accidentally shared a press release that showed 3 mysterious upcoming titles: Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario 128, and Marionette. The list was pulled shortly after, but people had already had their curiosity piqued. In August 2001, during an interview with IGN, Shigeru Miyamoto talked about the title from the press release. And as for Marionette, it is still under development. It is not a Mario game, but an actual marionette game utilizing a puppet. I am hoping to make something both complicated and simple at the same time, which is kind of a contradiction. But already we are experimenting, and once again, sometime in the future we may be able to show you something on it. In another IGN article, Miyamoto talks about how Marionette was toyed around in concept stages for the N64 and GameCube, but never really got developed into a full game. Marionette is probably more suited for something like the Wii, said Miyamoto. However, that type of game is difficult. Just looking at it, it seems to be fun, but then you get the feeling of, well, what do I do now? As of now, not a single image of the game has ever surfaced, and not much is really even known about it. Lost 4D Pokemon Film. Pokemon 4D, Pikachu's Ocean Adventure, is a short anime film that was shown in 4D. The film had a limited run in Japan in select theaters starting in 2006. It was later dubbed into English and premiered at the IMAX 3D Theater at Jordan's Furniture in Avon, Massachusetts. It was distributed by Simex iWorks. It played there for a while, but it is no longer playing. Simex iWorks claims their rights to the film have expired. It was screened again in 2017 together with Pokemon 3D Adventure Mew o Sagase in Japan theaters and again in 2020. Super Mario World Mario Attack. Super Mario World Mario Attack is an arcade game developed by Banpresto in 1996 based on the SNES game Super Mario World. The game involves landing Mario on items of different values in metals. The player has the option of doubling or tripling their bet, and you must dive within 18 seconds. The player loses if they dive into an enemy or a pit, or if they run out of time. They win if Mario, Yoshi, or Princess Toadstool appear on the screen. The arcade game was only released in Japan, and no ROM has been dumped to the internet, though the machine is owned by a Japanese YouTuber Kikai. Windows XP Famicom. The Windows XP Famicom game is one of several bootleg Famicom games that was released in the early 2000s. Other games have replicated Windows 98 and Windows 2000 with similar content and interactions. Based on the analysis of its BIOS screen, this Famicom game was likely established in 2003. This means it was created not long after the XP operating system itself was first released on October 25, 2001. This bootleg, as the game's title suggests, replicates much of the operating system, including the loading and BIOS screens. Oddly, however, the menu screen is not of XP but is of its predecessor, 2000. Unlike 98 and 2000, this bootleg game has never been officially dumped on the internet. In October 2013, it was reported that a copy was sold on eBay for $89 after 11 bids were made, with its location originally being tied to Bangkok, Thailand. As of the present day, only a few screenshots confirm its existence. Boo Haunt DS. Boo Haunt is a cancelled DS game pitched by the company Retro Studios. Possibly known as the Haunt Project, in this game, players would take the role of a young Boo freshly graduated in the Haunt University. In these images, you can also see a Boo professor teaching his students about some sort of magic cauldron. The Boo protagonist would have been chosen to be dipped into it for whatever reason, possibly to give him new powers. Concept art shows this Boo in different poses, as it could be stretched out and moved around like in Kirby Canvas Curse. The only media surrounding this game that exists is concept art and drawings, some of which are kind of strange. Like this one, I mean, why is he being crucified? Unity. Unity was a shoot-'em-up game being developed by Jeff Minter and published by Lionhead Studios for the Nintendo GameCube. Jeff Minter is a famous video game developer who notably uses this signature abstract art style. It was in development from the beginning of 2003 until its cancellation at the end of 2004. It was going to feature this trademark psychedelic graphical style, matched with an interactive music component. The music was going to be provided by someone who was reportedly well known and appropriate for the game's style, but the artist himself was never revealed. Unity was very highly anticipated, however, the game just slipped off the face of the earth. Some of the Unity technology could have been reused for Space Giraffe, a game available for the Xbox 360 arcade and PCs. Game Boy Music. Game Boy Music was a music game for the Game Boy Advance shown to the public at the Tokyo Game Show in 2001. By using the A and B buttons in combination with the D-pad, you can make your own music on the GBA. The game was going to come packaged with a battery-powered pocket speaker and cable. The title was cancelled and eventually brought back as Jam with the band for the Nintendo DS. Demaikan Wii U. Demaikan was a Japanese food delivery service that Nintendo offered on 2 of its consoles. It first appeared on the Wii as a Wii channel in 2009 and allowed users in Japan to order meals directly from participating restaurants. In August 8, 2013, a version of the service launched for the Wii U under the name Demaikan. Unlike the Wii channel, which had its own custom menus and interface, the Wii U release mostly acted as a launcher for the company's website. Both the Wii and Wii U versions of this service were discontinued on March 31, 2017, and removed from the Wii Shop channel and Nintendo eShop shortly beforehand. The Wii U edition is now considered lost, or at least poorly documented. While its existence and launch date are known, literally no footage of it on the internet exists, and screenshots of people actually using it are very scarce. Kirby Slide. Kirby Slide, also known as Foxbox Kirby eCard, or Kirby Puzzle, is a simple 8-block sliding puzzle game that was released as an e-reader title on the Game Boy Advance. The card was bundled with Nintendo Power Volume 175 and given away at select Toys R Us stores. This game was made to promote Kirby Right Back At Ya, and the sliding puzzle is even based on the Kirby's main artwork from the anime. After completing the puzzle, the game displays a simple congratulatory message and then offers the player to either restart the puzzle or quit back into the e-reader menu. Who Are You Running From? Unedited Photo. Who Are You Running From refers to a series of photos found on the Game Boy Camera software. They are really odd images of men with drawn-on makeup and other facial details. It's quite unsettling to look at, and would probably scar any kid who used the Game Boy Camera back in the day. However, the lost media tied to this oddity is that the unedited version of any of these photos have never surfaced online. It's unknown who these men are, why the photos were included in the first place, nothing really adds up. Jammin' with Mario and Mario's Driving Range. 2 lost Flash games, Mario's Driving Range and Jamming with Mario, were hosted on the Happy Meal website for a brief time in 2006. These games were playable on the Happy Meal website and were part of an official Mario toy promotion for McDonald's Happy Meals. Archived websites announcing the toy line for these games still exist, but no screenshots or videos of these 2 games seem to be anywhere online. There is a downloadable screensaver that was a part of this promotion that is preserved on the Super Mario Bros. Website, but aside from that, information about these games is very scarce. Also, this screensaver is just absolutely hideous. I mean, wow. Cosmic Walker. In the fall season of 2008, Nintendo held a conference where they would share information about upcoming games. The game was created by Gaia, which is a company founded by former employee of Atlas Games, Koji Okada. This company had released 5 games under their belt before working on Cosmic Walker. In his movie reel from the 2008 conference, this short 6-second clip of the game is all we really got, alongside 3 screenshots. In the footage, we can clearly see advanced spaceships and space stations, which suggests that the game takes place in the near future. The fact that this 6-second gameplay montage shows no traditional action sequences like gunfights or boss battles, it led a lot of fans to believe that this game, Cosmic Walker, may have a lot in common with a game like Endless Ocean. We Relax. We Relax is a cancelled Wii exclusive game, and it was filed as a trademark but never released, and was speculated to be software for the Wii Vitality Sensor. It, along with the Wii Vitality Sensor, never released, and have hardly been mentioned on the internet. Untitled Sleep Game. The Untitled Sleep Game is an unreleased Nintendo game only known from patents. It is a project for the Nintendo Quality of Life initiatives, and it's unknown if this idea will be brought to life. Similar to Pokemon Sleep, Wii Relax, and Sleep Clock record and analyze your sleep patterns, if released, this game would encourage players to sleep better. It involves an unknown peripheral that can project and display an image and detect when the player is sleeping or awake. A patent describes it being able to display a message after the player wakes up, such as, "You had a nice sleep. Try to have sufficient sleep hours." The concept art includes Mario. Pokeball Recall PSA loud beeping noise. In 1999, Burger King introduced tiny Pokemon figurines in plastic Pokeballs after the release of Pokemon the first movie. When the Pokeball toy was opened, the top half was separated from the bottom half. This Pokeball posed as a danger to some children because when it was opened, one of the separated halves suffocated them when they placed it around their nose and mouth. This first killed a 1-year-old girl, as well as 2 other children, and it also injured an 18-month-old girl. In response, Burger King released a PSA telling its customers to throw the ball away or return it in exchange for free french fries. Apparently, sometimes before this commercial aired, there would be a loud, almost comedically loud, beeping noise to alert the viewers. No videos of this currently exist, and it's unknown if it ever existed at all, but many claim they remember seeing this on TV. Patent US 7762893. US 7762893 was a design concept for a touch-based strategy game highly resembling the Pikmin series on a device that bears a remarkable resemblance to the Nintendo DS. It was filed as a patent in January 2006 by Yuji Kondo and Yutaka Hirameki, who respectively are the main programmers and level designers for Pikmin and Pikmin 2. This patent was reportedly never turned into a game, but it does really resemble Pikmin, so, if I had to guess where it went, most of it probably turned into Pikmin. Fascination. In 1974, Nintendo released Wild Gunman, an arcade game that used 16mm film rather than video. It was a light gun shooter where the player engages in a gunfight with various Old West-style outlaws. The gunmen were represented by film footage of actual live-action people. 10 years later, in 1984, it inspired the NES game of the same name. Nintendo also designed a more adult version of the game known as Fascination. This is where the lost media comes in. It was also a shooter using a light gun, but the film was significantly different. Instead of shooting cowboys, the player shot at a Swedish woman in a dress who danced around the screen. When she struck a pose, the player shoots, and instead of killing her, parts of her clothing came off. Kinda like one of those Fortnite challenges. This game was never released to the public, and likely due to the company wanting to keep a family-friendly image, they rarely mention it. Laser clay shooting system. In the 1960s, bowling became a fad in Japan. However, like all fads, its popularity faded away and many bowling alleys were abandoned by 1971. Desiring to make new use of these facilities, Hiroshi Yamauchi, president of Nintendo at the time, began devising concepts for a new game to be hosted in these buildings. In the early 1970s, Nintendo was largely a toy company but was venturing into other industries. Yamauchi's idea became known as the Laser Clay Shooting System. It could be said that this game was Nintendo's first venture into the video game industry, although it wasn't truly a video game. Despite technical problems, such as the computer breaking down, it was actually a success and inspired Nintendo to get into arcade gaming. However, when the 1973 oil crisis hit, Japan cut back on unnecessary amenities, and clients began canceling their orders. No known instances of laser clay shooting systems are either operational or intact today. Pokémon PC Master. Pokémon PC Master was a Japan-exclusive educational PC game developed by Umbrella and published by the Pokémon Company, released in 2006. It taught skills such as typing, drawing, internet browsing, and using a mouse. Its website, www.pokemonpcmaster.com, went down in around 2007 and has been used by someone else since. Little else is known about this game. A CD-ROM disc for a trial version was found in January 2018. A trailer also exists, which lets us see brief gameplay footage of the lost game. Aside from this, its whereabouts are unknown. 2 Pikachu event footage. In 1998, Nintendo decorated 10 Volkswagen Beetles to promote the launch of Pokémon in the US. This was the game's kickstarting event, and almost no photos and no video of it are out there. A picture of one of these cars has surfaced, and it was briefly shown off on some Australian news broadcasts. Nintendo was no stranger to these car kind of promotions, as they did a similar thing for the Wii's launch in 2006, and then later gave away a bunch of smart cars with Wii branding as a sweepstakes promotion with Comedy Central. The broadcasts for multiple of these Comedy Central programs are also lost media, however they will be covered in a small documentary of their own that I'll release after this video. Pollen Sonata. Pollen Sonata was an experimental Wii prototype developed in 2007 by a group of 10 students from the Danish Academy of Digital Interactive Entertainment. The team built the prototype as a class project, with hopes of it eventually bringing the game into Nintendo's console. The concept was an unusual and artistic take on gaming, focusing on pollination and environmental themes, and the team even put together a teaser video to showcase the idea to potential publishers and generate interest. Despite the ambition of Pollen Sonata, it never came to fruition. While there were plans to adapt the prototypes into a full game, it lacked the funding and publisher support necessary to move it forward. As time passed, the students graduated and went on to other projects, leaving the prototype behind. Okochi Gengoro Ika. Okochi Gengoro Ika is an unreleased Nintendo 64 simulation game. During the N64 era, there was absolutely no information about this game anywhere, in magazines or other media. But it became generally known on April 12, 2007. The game is set in Japan, and the main character is Kokuzo Okachi, the eldest son of a family in 5th grade. The game consists of 12 scenarios, as they're called. The events that occur in this game are extremely absurd and chaotic. In the scenario of making curry and rice for dinner, detergent, rats, and dynamite are thrown into the pot, resulting in food poisoning when they eat the finished curry. In the scene of going shopping for a TV and a tombstone, suddenly a mother and sister kill each other over one man using a fire extinguisher and a kitchen knife. Yep, that's the game. Although the publisher of the game is unknown, the development team for Okochigen Gororika is almost identical to the game Gale Racer, and therefore the developer is likely to be System Seicom, which developed the same game. Gluco Boy Software. The Gluco Boy was a unique piece of technology aimed at helping children with diabetes monitor their blood sugar while also playing games. Created by Guidance Interactive Healthcare, it was essentially a blood glucose meter designed to plug into the Game Boy Advance. For years, the Gluco Boy's built-in software and games were considered lost media. Few units were publicly available, and no one had successfully extracted or preserved the ROMs online. However, this changed in 2023, as the software has finally been located and dumped. Peach's Castle. In 2002, Nintendo sent various developers a GameCube interactive tech demo in order to showcase them the graphical capabilities of the new console. In this tech demo, you can move an arrow through Peach's Castle, and in every room you can see a different graphical effect. It was never released to the public and could have been lost forever, but luckily, some time ago, the Peach's Castle tech demo was leaked online and has now been preserved. Radio Flyer. Radio Flyer is a cancelled flying game that was in development by Ocean for the Super Nintendo based on the 1992 drama movie of the same name. It was scheduled for release sometime in 1992. The game was cancelled for unknown reasons, but a possible reason could be that it was based on a movie about child abuse. In issue 23 of the UK gaming magazine Retro Gamer, it was confirmed by former Ocean employee and artist Brian Flanagan that development for Radio Flyer was axed before it even started. The movie being about child abuse appears to be the reason for its cancellation. The screenshots sent to gaming magazines could have possibly been mock-ups of what the game would have looked like. Kirby phone line recordings. In the December 1983 issue of the Japanese educational magazine Second Grade, there were various print ads for a Kirby call service of some kind. Players could call in and I guess have a chat with Kirby. These calls typically lasted for around 1 minute in length. Since Makiko Omoro didn't start voicing Kirby until the original Super Smash Bros. In 1999, it's unknown who voiced Kirby on these calls. The call service was discontinued on the 29th of December 1983, and none of the calls were ever archived. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 3DS. Similarly to the Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Games case from part 1 of this Iceberg video, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 had a very similar story behind it. It was listed as a purchasable game on an online store, this time being on Zavi USA, listed for $57.99. Supposedly the game was sold out, but nowhere else was this game even being mentioned outside of this one listing. So who knows who bought this game and what they were sold? It's unknown if the game ever existed at all. Splatoon Tofu Prototype. Splatoon Tofu Prototype refers to this build of Splatoon that was shown off at GDC 2018 for about a minute and a half. I'll play the clip of the developers explaining it now.
We discussed our ideas together every day until after half a year, we found ourselves with over 70 different design proposals and a number of software prototypes.
そこから生まれたのがスプラトゥーンの元となるアイデアです。
The idea that formed the basis for Splatoon emerged from this process.
最初の施策は平面的なマップ上で、直方体のキャラクターを操作し白黒のインクを吹き出すシンプルなものでした。手っ取り早く直方体でキャラクターを作ったんですけども、私たちはこれを豆腐と呼んでいました。
Our initial prototype was fairly simplistic. You would move a cube-shaped character around a flat map, shooting out white or black ink. We used cubes because they were easy to create and eventually ended up calling them blocks of tofu. Linking together multiple Wii U consoles allowed us to have team battles in which we'd compete to cover the most area with our own team's ink, and that became the core of Splatoon's gameplay. Of course, you can also attack and defeat your opponents.
Kirby Star Ride. Kirby Star Ride is a web game in the Kirby series. It was developed and published by 4Kids TV as a promotion for Kirby Right Back At Ya. It was deleted from the website along with all related Kirby content in October 2009 when the show's license expired and virtually no information on this game survived. Kirby Star Ride's exact release date is unknown. Its only recorded appearances online date back to December 5th and 6th, 2008. 3D Mario Kart Wii. In 2011, Nintendo would appear at the annual GDC, or Game Developers Conference, to show off what they had been working on and plan to release that following year. Many videos exist of Reggie and Iwata's keynotes, however, one in particular is of interest today, that being Hideki Kono's. At Kono's keynote, he mainly talked about the development of the 3DS, such as who was on the dev team, the hardware, and of course, the 3DS's big gimmick, stereoscopic 3D. Hideki Kono briefly talks about how the team was trying to make Mario Kart Wii work with a 3D effect, and they whipped up a whole demo version of the game to test things out. No footage of this demo being used has ever been shown, and probably never will be considering this was only something the developers would actually use. We did see an image of this altered version of the nunchuck with a 3D slider, but that's about it. Wii Sports Mii Support Disc. This is the Wii Sports Mii Support Disc. It is currently unknown what the purpose of this disc is. The only copy of this disc that we know exists currently is extremely scratched, to the point where it was completely unrecognizable by the Wii's disk drive. The disc's exact purpose is unknown, however, as the Wii menu has code to output an error if the Mii channel data is corrupted, it is likely that this disc is intended to remedy that in some way. Back in 2012, an illegitimate 99-cent version of Pokemon Yellow that claimed to be just like the original was removed from the iOS App Store after quickly climbing the store's paid app charts in just 1 week. The app's description showed screenshots from Nintendo's popular Game Boy RPG, yet many who got hoodwinked into a download complained that the app crashed immediately after the title screen. Even if it hadn't, though, purchasers may have been disappointed. After downloading the game, it seemed to be a simple conglomeration of Pokemon-related news and YouTube videos, rather than the promised working game. However, footage of this game in action is completely lost. Osama bin Laden's Animal Crossing save file. The link between Osama bin Laden and Animal Crossing comes from reports that a hard drive seized during the 2011 raid of his compound in Pakistan contained pirated Nintendo DS games, including Animal Crossing Wild World. This odd detail went viral. The contrast between the world's most wanted terrorist and a peaceful life simulation game was just absurd. It's impossible to know exactly why this game appeared on the drive. However, it may have belonged to one of the other residents of the compound, possibly a child, or had been downloaded simply as a part of a large cache of Western media that also included movies, anime, and other games. In any case, its presence suggested that the drive was more of a shared entertainment collection than a personal library. After the revelation, members of the Animal Crossing and Lost Media communities became curious about what bin Laden's in-game town could have looked like. Their hunt for the save file, however, ran into immediate problems. The CIA's data dump was mostly raw data and not clean, ready-to-load saves. It's unknown whether the relevant files were ever fully declassified, but it is known that Nintendo DS save formats are notoriously tricky to interpret. Nintendo Love Hotel evidence. The claim that Nintendo once ran or owned love hotels is largely a misunderstanding as a part of Nintendo's history that got exaggerated online. So, in the 1960s and early 1970s, before Nintendo became a video game company, they experimented with various side businesses to diversify beyond playing cards and toys. Among these experiments were things like Instant Rice, a taxi company, and even a love hotel. A love hotel as in one love hotel. Contemporary Japanese business records and interviews show that Nintendo did briefly operate, or at least invest in, a single establishment in Kyoto. However, it was short-lived and not a core business, and had little to do with the company's future direction. Over time, this minor venture turned into a hoax suggesting that Nintendo ran a chain of love hotels or was deeply involved in the adult industry. In reality, there's no evidence Nintendo owned more than one location or had an ongoing stake in that market. Game Boy Color Body Paint Livestream. The Game Boy Color Body Paint event was a strange promotion Nintendo of America held during spring break season in March 1999. Its purpose was to draw attention to the Game Boy Color's bright new palette by literally painting swimsuit-clad college students in the handheld's official colors. The event had a beach party atmosphere and was meant to stand out from Nintendo's usually conservative image, and was one of the company's earliest attempts at mixing online content with real-world marketing stunts. At the time, Nintendo promoted the event as an online broadcast, using a Real Player G2 streaming to let people watch it over the internet. Because the livestream hasn't resurfaced today, the event is considered a piece of lost media. We know the event took place from web articles and such, but no footage, full recordings, or even screenshots have been preserved publicly. Rap Attack. Rap Attack is a supposed SNES game that was listed on a Chips and Bits advertisement from the May 1992 GamePro magazine issue. Supposedly it was a shooter game, but nothing else is known about it, not even if it was cancelled. Considering how little info there is, it's most likely that this may not even be officially licensed by Nintendo. Mario Slapshot. In 2024, images were leaked of an arcade table named Mario Slapshot. It is a hockey-themed foosball-like game with a Super Mario theme, featuring molded figures of Super Mario characters as the players and a scoreboard mounted by 2 piranha plants. It is unknown if this was a rejected pitch or if the licensing was already secured. This could have potentially been a piece of marketing material for an upcoming Mario sports game themed around hockey, but who knows. Kuruma de DS. Kuruma de DS, which roughly translates to In the Car DS, is a Japan-exclusive Nintendo DS game released on July 9, 2012. It was developed by Denso 10 in collaboration with Nintendo, and involves partnerships with Toyota and Honda. The basic idea is that the DS becomes a tool to enhance car travel, for example giving tour guide information, playing local quizzes, letting users save memories on drives, etc. Kuruma de DS is not a typical DS game you can just pop in and use anywhere though. It actually required specific GPS hardware in our car, specifically the Eclipse Smart Navi systems, that pairs with the DS via Bluetooth. Without that hardware, many of its core functions are unusable. So while physical copies of this game are still circulating online, it's hard to know what this game really contained because very few people have emulated it. Wet Dry World background image source. On March 1st, 2021, a user on Twitter named Charlie C. Nintendo found every image that makes up the background of the Mario 64 level Wet Dry World. Wii Sports You Win voice line. Many players of Wii Sports vividly remember the game's announcer saying "you win" or "you lose" at the end of a match, even hearing the voice's cadence in their heads. In fact, I kind of can too. This memory is so widespread that it became a notable example of the Mandela effect, where groups of people share a false but consistent recollection. On forums like Reddit, you'll find countless posts from people swearing they grew up hearing the victory line and feeling surprised when told it never existed. In reality, the original 2006 release of Wii Sports never featured the announcer speaking those words. While the announcer, voiced by Josh Millman, does call out things like game or hole-in-one, there is no audio clip of him saying "you win" or "you lose" when a match ends. Instead, the game simply displays the text on screen accompanied by fanfare and crowd noises. Players who have dug into the game's files or replayed matches confirm that such a voice line is not present anywhere in the code. Half-Elf Tentacle Assault. Half-Elf Tentacle Assault DS was an erotic video game not licensed for Nintendo DS, developed by Team DSX and distributed by the defunct R4 flashcard sales company Sun Crew Co. Ltd. It was going to be launched at the end of 2008 at the Comiket, a Japanese fair of some sorts. But its distribution was ultimately cancelled just before its opening. The plot of the game is currently unknown, and all we know is that it involves half-elf girls being put into these gruesome situations with monsters, most of which having long tentacles. These situations mostly revolved around rape and abuse. I don't want to go into more detail with what this game contained, considering it's extremely disturbing and would make any sane person pretty uncomfortable to talk about. Outside of very foot-trafficked stores in Japan, apparently pamphlets were handed out to promote the game. Currently, there is no known whereabouts of this game, considering the devs finally came to their senses and cancelled this thing before its release date came. Wii U Zapper. In their E3 2011 trailer for the Wii U, at around 1 minute 50 seconds in, there's a minigame being played by someone holding what looks like a version of the Wii Zapper peripheral but for the Wii U. It holds the Wii U gamepad, and it's being used as a sniper scope. The player aims it into a window and shoots at a Mii of Shigeru Miyamoto. Who knows if this is an actual game or just an animation, but what's more interesting is the actual Wii U Zapper peripheral itself. This thing never got released, but it actually seems like a pretty cool idea and could probably make shooter games feel pretty immersive. Green Wii. The green Wii seen at E3 2005 wasn't actually a production model, but rather one of several non-final color mock-ups Nintendo showed while the console was still being referred to as the Nintendo Revolution. At that time, Nintendo displayed the system's shell in a variety of striking colors, including black, white, silver, red, and a bright, almost lime green, to gauge public reaction and emphasize that the new console was more stylish and more customizable than previous hardware. These cases were essentially empty prototypes or early shells and not functioning units, and the green version in particular never moved past that stage. When the Wii finally launched in 2006, it debuted only in white. Black and red would come later, but silver and green were never officially released. And that's it. The Nintendo Lost Media Iceberg Explained, or Part 2 at least. Stay tuned for the supercut that contains both Parts 1 and 2, and hey, potentially some new exclusive entries added to the iceberg. Also, if you've made it this far, you might as well subscribe. Alright, shout out to my channel members, love y'all, I'll see you all soon, goodbye.